Cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NFL The Betting Blitz, Week 16. It is Sunday morning, December the 21st, 2025. The final Sunday before Christmas. A beautiful time to be here with us. Huge game last night, closing it out. Bears taking down the Packers. Mike was on the air for 7 hours yesterday. I'm surprised he's awake. He's a grinder just like us. Took a loss last weekend. Just want to address that very briefly. Had my worst card in 10 years. It happens. It's football. It's crazy. These teams go for it on every fourth down. They don't kick extra points. Variance is crazy. We stay the course. We got a really nice looking card today. You guys are in the chat. We see you guys in the chat. Please drop your plays, your comments. You guys are on the East Coast. 11:15 West Coast. I see you guys. 8:15 a.m. Get your coffee. Let's talk some ball. Mike, what's going on, brother?
Happy holidays, Shark. What a fucking fun week we've got in front of us here. Christmas around the corner. Week 16 NFL. Some of you guys are in your fantasy football playoffs. I am as well. And we got a fun card lined up here. It's a big card for an NFL Sunday, considering they've had 2 games yesterday, 1 game on Thursday. Crazy run that's going on. The bowl season's in front of us. I've hit 10 straight bowl games. Let's see if we can't find a way to fire up and make some money here on Sunday. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, sometimes it just doesn't go your way. Last Sunday, it was just a tough one. But the best thing about betting, amongst numerous other things, we get to do it again. It is a suddenly not so casual Week 16 Sunday. Let's talk some ball. 7 games at 1 o'clock. First game on the card, a very interesting game. Chiefs at Titans. This is not exactly where we expected this game to be. In the middle of the summer, you would have said, oh, Chiefs come in here, win this game by 14 plus, coast into the playoffs. All of a sudden, 6-8, eliminated. Patrick Mahomes on the injury list. The Titans at home this year have been scrappy. They are 0-7 straight up. They are 3-4 ATS. They're showing signs. I think they might get their first win today, Mike. What do you think about this one?
How about them Chiefs, man? Last week and you know, disappointing. Shout out to Patrick Mahomes. I heard he went under the knife right away. And he's already been running. They said he started running yesterday. I read a tweet that he started running already, getting himself back in a rehab. So I don't know what he's running to or from, but maybe it might be just sitting at home with the misses. However, on the other side of things here, yeah, this might be a Titans opportunity. You know, I've talked before to you guys about these quarterbacks and saying, you know, what when a quarterback comes in, is he better or worse than the replacement that's out there? And, you know, Gardner Minshew, Patrick Mahomes, there's obviously no question about this thing. I want to look at the total on this game here. And, you know, we've got 49% of the bets on the Chiefs. We've got 40% of the cash. So some bigger money coming in on the Titans. Is it a wrong team favored situation? 71% of the bets, 67% of the cash are on the over. And it's at 37.5. That's the angle I'm going to look at here. The Chiefs 13-0 to the under when they've had a spread loss of 6.5 or more points. And they're going under by almost 10 points a game in those spots. So I think this is an ugly, grimy, grind them out, low-scoring game. I'm going to take the under 37.5, Shark.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. And, you know, truthfully, I wanted to bring out the buy hat for this one. I don't have a Titans hat, but I'm going to give you guys the Titans officially at +3. Maybe I'll get one this afternoon after I cash a ticket. Cam Ward, let's do it. And you know what? As I said, what we're looking here, 0-7 at home. It's got to come at some point. I don't think this coach is that bad. I don't think the team is that bad. I think they're developing. As I said, 3-4 ATS last 4 at home. I think in terms of a corollary spot, did cover their only home game against the AFC West, caught about 9.5 points against the Chargers, did take a pretty emphatic lead early before giving it back, but covering the spread 27-20. But I really want to hone in on the Chiefs here. This is, for anybody betting the Chiefs, I really want you to listen to what I'm about to say. This is the most inconsequential game the Chiefs have played in about 12 years. If you go back to pre-Mahomes, it was Alex Smith, obviously #1 overall pick years back coming out of Utah. This team has been incredibly relevant. And if you go back 10 years ago, they were the young team on the heels of the Patriots who had owned the AFC for 20 years. The Chiefs have owned the AFC for the last 7. This is an absolute 0.0 on the scale of importance for the Chiefs. This is Patrick Mahomes injured. This is a game that means absolutely nothing. And truthfully, I was saying to Mike before the show, for me, this is not even a preseason game. This is like Mahomes and Swift in the Hamptons, drunk, throwing a Nerf football around on July 4th. They will not care about this game in the least. And the only time last year Mahomes didn't play in week 18, just to give you guys a snapshot to the lack of quality the Chiefs are capable of, they lost 38-0 at Denver. This is before Mike and I were doing this amazing show. I gave you guys Denver in week 18 last year. They were laying like 9.5 points, and the whole world said, Shark, you're insane. How could you ever fade the Chiefs at plus 9.5? 38-0. And now you're getting Gardner Minshew. This kid's a journeyman. He's a grinder. He looks like he plays guitar in the 60s for some country band. His hair's down halfway down his back. He used to cover spreads for the Colts. He didn't cover last year for the Raiders. He's not going to cover today. This team's going to have absolutely no juice. I could actually see him getting pulled in the second half for this random kid, Chris Olakudin, 7th-round pick out of South Dakota State. This is a funeral spot. This is a historically awful spot. And crazily enough, in terms of the spot here for the Titans to get their first win at home, why wouldn't it be against the Chiefs? It's actually, crazily enough, a turn-up spot for the Titans. The Chiefs are going to care 0.0. Titans 100%. Titans are going to be all over them. Take the Titans at +3, and let's cash. Next game on the card, we are going to MetLife Stadium. It seems like we're going there every single week, whether it be the Jets or the Giants in East Rutherford. Cold day, Route 3 in New York, in the New York area. I used to live around there. I love that area. Good Taylor ham, good pizza, good sandwiches. Not good football. Here comes J.J. McCarthy on the road. Here comes Jackson Dart at home. This team is in shambles. Mike, last week you had an under. It did not win because the Giants are that bad. What do you think about this one today?
Yeah, I want to make a comment here. I see Spanky Weber and his ray of sunshine in the chat says, when are you guys going to realize you can't beat the books? Everybody has access to the same stats. You guys are crazy. All opinions that mean nothing, Shark. And to that guy, I would say eat a big bowl of shit. We continue to win on a regular basis. We dominate the books. These are not this team's homes. Look, you don't see home stats. You don't see road stats. You see two guys on screen diving in, making predictions, telling you guys what we think based on critical thinking skills, Spanky Weber. In other words, you can go look and see home and away. You can go look and see passing versus rushing and all the rest. But it's going to take a guy like the Shark and myself to help you put all those pieces together to beat the books. And if you're not beating the books, welcome in, because we're going to help you get it done here with this Vikings and Giants game. We roll on, Shark. Excuse me while I take that detour.
I think our guy was spanking the Weber grill at the Swift Kelsey party in the Hamptons. He knows exactly what we're talking about. He's still hung over from it. Fireworks. We're hanging out. Mike, talk to me.
68% of the cash, 65% of the bets on the Minnesota Vikings. Line not a moving in this spot here. This Giants team, are they forgiven? Are they dead? Are they done? Are they under? Are they partying with Spanky? 42.5s have oscillated. We haven't seen much movement one way or the other. 68% of the bets and 58% of the cash are on the over. And it's another ugly, ugly game here. The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy's back, and they've had some big spots out there. You know, you look back at last week's performance and you kind of see, well, maybe, just maybe, 34-26. You look deeper, though, and it was against them Dallas Cowboys. I'll tell you what, I was kind of on the fence with this game. I thought, well, you know what? Part of me thinks the under. I'm actually going to go to the Minnesota Vikings side of things here. Yeah, the Giants are pretty much washed, and there's not much they've got going on, if anything at all. But, you know, here's a situation where the Giants, when the books put them before the fours, Spanky, in other words, when the books don't know what's going to happen in this game, they ping pong between +4 and -4. The Giants don't win. They don't show up. They're 0-10-1 against the spread. So I'm going to take this Minnesota Viking spot here. I think, you know, overall, laying 2.5 points seems like a fair number to get involved with J.J. McCarthy and squad. Give me the Vikings -2.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. And, you know, crazily enough, for all these games that really mean nothing in terms of the playoffs, of course, both teams eliminated. I think the Vikings have a lot more to play for here. First of all, Kevin O'Connell is going nowhere. This guy's a very good coach. You saw him take Kirk Cousins basically off the dirt into the playoffs. Kirk has looked awful since leaving the Vikings. You saw him take Darnold from kind of fledgling first overall pick journeyman to elite looking quarterback last year. Of course, now with the number one seed Seahawks in the NFC, this guy is a QB whisperer. He's actually a very good coach. He will have this team ready to get upward movement going into the offseason for the draft and minicamp. You can't say the same thing about the Giants. This guy, Mike Kafka, is an interim coach. He's an offensive guy. He's pretty young. Young being irrelevant. Kevin O'Connell's about the same age. He's not coming back next year. So the point is the Giants are in complete disarray, complete turmoil, not a team you want to buy. And speaking on this, these teams have played actually 4 times in the last 4 years. And this has been the Kevin O'Connell version of the Vikings. The last time these teams played, it was Sam Darnold, week 1 last year, September the 8th, 2024. Minnesota in this stadium, 28-6. I think you see a repeat. I think Jackson Dart has upside next year with a different coach. I think Jackson Dart has not been put into a very good situation here. Obviously, firing Brian Daboll mid-season. A lot of franchises not in the New York market with the media all over them to make a change would have held on to Daboll through the year just for continuity purposes and to help the rookie quarterback. This is just chaos. He's not going to perform well today. I actually think you might see a lot of points in this game, Mike. I think what you're seeing here from O'Connell and McCarthy is a rebirth, if you will. That sounds almost ridiculous because he was just born in week 1 and kind of fell apart in week 2 and 3. But since coming back as the starter, he's been effective. You saw Minnesota just lay 34 points on the Cowboys last week. And as we said, you tried to buy an under last week. I didn't think it was incorrect, but the Giants just play a really unregulated style of football, which facilitates a ton of points. They play aggressively. They go for it on 4th down. They turn the ball over. Their defense is a sieve. My top look in this game would be the over. 2 looks in this game. Mike likes 2.5. I like the over and keeping it moving. Next game on the card, Bucs-Panthers, divisional football in Charlotte. It's a big-time spot. Baker Mayfield at Bryce Young. You guys are watching ESPN, you're listening to X, you're listening to Adam Schefter, all these guys. All you're hearing about is Baker Mayfield owns the Panthers. Like, I actually didn't know that back when Baker was decking policemen at Oklahoma drunk overnight, it was all about his anger against the Panthers. Apparently, based on the media, that's what it is. He's 4-0 as quarterback for the Bucs against this divisional rival. However, I think it flips today. Mike, any thoughts?
Interesting spot here. So this line's actually moving away from the Buccaneers. It was that 3.5 with the hook, but they've settled back. And I think that kind of speaks volumes here. You've got 47% of the bets, but you've got 56% of the cash leaning to the Baker Mayfield Buccaneers side of things here. And yet they've come down off of that hook. And we know the books don't like to oscillate around those key numbers. They like to get involved. They like to make a win one way or the other. And yet it's coming down. 47.5 have moved down to 45.5. We're even seeing 44.5. And you've got 69% of the bets and 72% of the cash in this thing. Buccaneers, it's funny. I saw last week after that game against Hotlanta where we gave you the Hotlanta side of things here, but Baker Mayfield gets the lean and deep embrace from Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins says, now go win the NFC South. And it got some work in front of him here. I mean, certainly a good-looking team. There's a lot of player incentives on the line here, from Dowdle on down to Evans, on down to Hubbard, on down to Buka, and I mean, you name it. There's things for these teams to play for, and it's a divisional game. So typically the second time through at the end of the season, we like to see those divisional games kind of be clash and smash. There's a game you're going to talk about in a little bit where you kind of compare who these guys have played. I mean, the Panthers had an LA side of things. They had a San Francisco side of things here. But I'm not in love with what I'm seeing out of Baker. Down the stretch, they had that tough spot against Buffalo. They had to go on the road against LA. They came back home and took down Arizona. They lost to New Orleans at home. They lost to Atlanta at home. And now you're going to put them in a divisional spot. Not only are you going to put them in a divisional spot, but Carolina comes into themselves 8-0 where they haven't covered in back-to-back games. In other words, you can buy super low on a Carolina Panthers side of things here. They're 8-0 against the spread. They're 7-1 straight up. So 3 points to me. The line's telling us what we need to get involved with here. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers +3.
I completely agree. First collab of this one, +3. There's a little more to unpack here. And I really want to go into this media narrative as I was watching this morning. It kind of fired me up, actually, just because I feel like oftentimes, people are watching TV and they kind of get behind these narratives, which I just don't think really have a lot of correct data behind them. Baker is 4-0 against the Panthers. This is the first matchup this year. These teams actually play in week 18 as well. It was the same thing you saw last night with Philadelphia against Washington. 2 out of the final 3 weeks, divisional games between these two teams. So they haven't played in a while. And that's very important because when Baker was supposedly just owning the Panthers, it was 2023 when the Panthers were 2-15 and Bryce Young looked like a total bust. And last year, when Carolina was 5-12, Young had been benched for Andy Dalton, and he came back. So again, 4-0 against a totally different version of the Panthers. And you look at what happened last year in December in this stadium. Tampa Bay was laying 6.5 points and barely beat the Panthers in overtime, 26-23. This is going to be a very tight game. Carolina's off a loss at the Saints. They are 5-0 ATS this year off a loss, and they're zigzagging wins and losses the last 8 weeks. So what that means is they don't really have the sustainability to back up success with clustered success, but off of losses, they're great. And one final point on this, Mike's mentioning the game that was played Thursday Night Football last week. That was an inexcusable loss for the Bucs. It was also a game they needed. And now this is where I think this team is purely in a cliff dive. They're 1-5 straight up, 0-6 ATS last 6, and you're seeing very poor psychology here. Mike Evans, who's the team leader, won a championship with Tom Brady, is like throwing stuff on the sidelines. I've never seen this guy this irate, probably since Johnny Manziel was blackout drunk in a frat party 15 years ago. But truthfully, the body language is awful. And you talk about Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is a soft-spoken guy. In my opinion, he's a better coordinator than he is a head coach. I don't think he's a great leader. And he really took that to a whole nother level in a press conference midweek or after the game, whatever it was, by saying, well, this is on the players. Players have to play. This is not. It's like he's right, but you don't say that. You're calling out your guys in the press. This is terrible psychology. When you lose 5 out of 6, that's not a bounce back late season. Mike, you remember when the Eagles lost 6 in a row or whatever it was a couple seasons ago. They didn't bounce back. What it means is you're fatigued. The group's not connecting. This is a crater down spot. Carolina's about to get off the schneid. They've lost 5 straight to the Bucs. As I mentioned last year, lost in overtime at his stadium. Big time spot today. Take Carolina at +3. Next game on the card, going to New Orleans. Interesting game here. Mike, you're probably the only person in the world that really loves this guy, Tyler Show, other than his girlfriend and his parents. But this is actually an interesting line. He's now laying a touchdown. Has he graduated from underdog to laying touchdown status that quickly? Mike, what do you think?
Well, is that just a function of how bad the New York Jets are? Look at 3-11, but we've talked about this maybe 5-6 weeks ago where we talked about just no leadership, no from the ownership on down, the coaches, the quarterbacks, it's a musical chairs situation where you don't know who's going to be the guy one week to the next here. And so the New York Jets are lost. The Saints in this side of things, can you go out there? That's a big number to lay on these boys, and can give you the dough, I guess is the question that you have to look at here. Right now, we've got 52% of the bets and 66% of the cash on the -6.5. They're not having the greatest season themselves at 4-10 here. And then, of course, we've got the situation with Neal going on the IL here. Who is that? Well, he's the backup running back. So when Kamara gets hurt, they got to go to Neal. Now they're getting banged up as well. They're dealing with injuries across the lineup. They've got Taysom Hill. What's he going to do? Is he ever going to get himself a starting chance as the Q here? I don't want to lay 6.5, but I can't take 6.5 with the Jets either, Shark. Call me crazy, but Jets are bad. I mean, they're epically bad when you look at this thing here. 48-20, they lost at Jacksonville. They just had a big road game out there, so they're back-to-back games down in the South. 34-10, they got busted up by Miami. The impressive part about that beatdown is, one, they were at home. Two, that was the last game Tua's played, because Tua doesn't play well when it's sub 40 degrees, and yet they got smoked. So the Jets team's toast. I'm not laying 6.5, but I will look at the under. The Jets are 0-8 against NFC opponents that have more than 46.7% completion rate. Impressive, because that guy is show. The other side of things here are the Saints. They're 7-0 to the under after a win as a dog and recorded less than 340 yards. Those games are going under by 11 points a clip here. I think the under is a fair play for us in this game as well. So line me up, man. I don't want to get one side or the other in this game. I just want to see a lower scoring, grind it out, 40.5 numbers out there. Take the under in this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Truthfully, I think the game is an incredible toss. Our guy Ziggy in the chat says, I lean Jets ATS. I mean, one point on this, which I think leans towards the Jets. The Saints did just beat the Panthers last week, big divisional win. And it was a pretty, I would say, high emphasis, high energy win. They came back late. They were down. They got a couple really tight, advantageous plays in their favor. I think this is a bit of a trap letdown. And we've already seen this year. Of course, Tyler Show year one, but this is a pattern, and it's a good pattern. The last time he beat the Panthers, he has beaten the Panthers twice. He came back home and really just played a poor game against the Falcons, a poor version of the Falcons with Kirk Cousins. So this whole idea of beat the Panthers and then the week after, I think leans to a fade. I don't love the Jets by any stretch. Brady Cook hasn't looked particularly good. As you mentioned, Mike came in relief a couple weeks ago for Tyrod Taylor. Kind of kept the game tight. The Miami Dolphins were up in that game, and the game kind of just stagnated after Cook came in. Miami covered the spread. But last week, we told you guys on this show the Jaguars were going to blow out the Brady Cook Jets, and they did. So now you get a bit of a bounce back. I think it might be just too high of a pay grade in terms of the line for Tyler Show. Ultimately, the game is incredibly difficult. This is just week 16 football. These teams are going nowhere. They're more or less experimental here, trying to figure out where they are going forward with most of their roster. Tough game. Mike likes the under and keeping it moving. Getting into a nicer level of game here very quickly. We're going to Jerry World, Arlington, 1 o'clock. I believe that is 12 o'clock local. Chargers traveling to the Cowboys. Let that be the jump-off point here. 12 o'clock local for a Western team. We've already seen the Chargers underperform in this position 4 times this year. 0-4 ATS if the game is kicked off at a different time than Pacific time. The Cowboys need this game. This is the last day on earth for the Cowboys. They're favored. I think the Cowboys get the dub here, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a spot where the Cowboys, I mean, I guess they have 1% chance of making the playoffs. So maybe the Eagles finally eliminated them last night with that big win, back-to-back. Shout out to them Eagles, back-to-back NFC East champions. Hasn't been done in about 20 years, and they were able to go out there and just handle. I mean, it was tough. It was dicey. It was an ugly divisional game, but non-division Cowboys. How about Dak Prescott leads the league in passing yards out there, but it doesn't correlate to victories because that defense is just so ugly. They just continue to let up 30-pointer, 40-pointer, 50-point games out there. And somehow, despite the cash coming in on the Chargers, 74% of the bets and 72% of the cash, the Chargers have gone from -2.5 to +2. We've gone through zero. Shark, they've made it a situation where it flip-flopped. I can't agree with that. 46.5 have moved to 50.5. They have said that Dak Prescott will finish the season out. Part of my instinct tells me that's a little bit about the fact that he's leading the league in passing yards. A, he didn't get injured through the season, so he's still playing. That's been a challenge for this guy throughout time. B, they're leading in something, and Jerry Jones is a guy that likes to be leading the board somewhere, so he likes to see the Cowboys leading in passing yards. And I think, the C component of this thing here is they're playing another team that can chunk up yards. So even though the Cowboys aren't playing for anything and what's their motivation, you're still going to see Dak passing around the yard. You're still going to see this defense continues to stink. This line went from 46.5 to 50.5 for a reason. But I'm not buying in on these Cowboys. I guess I got to look to the over. This is one of them games where I'm just going to say, you know what? Bite down. Take this thing to have scoring in it. Neither one of these defenses can stop a lick here. 50 seems like a fair number to me, Shark. What do you think?
I agree. I think the best look is the over in this game, and you really have to look at a nice buy low here for the Chargers. The Chargers are coming in here off 2 straight unders. Just egregious. I mean, Kansas City last week, outdoors early, Mahomes injured late, Kansas City in shambles, 16-13, like just a dud. Previous week, Monday Night Football, week 14 against Philadelphia, final score 22-19. There were 8 turnovers in that game. I mean, that was unbelievable. I believe that was clearly one of the most turnover-laden games in this particular season. It's a buy low. It's also where, as I mentioned, the Chargers are not performing well defensively in these early times. Particularly, 2 particular games here, actually 3 on Eastern time, went over at Miami. Final score 29-27. Notice gave up 27 points. Over at Tennessee, 27-20, gave up 20 to Tennessee, who has not been good offensively situationally this year, and gave up 35 at Jacksonville in a blowout loss in Week 11. This is a terrible spot for the Chargers. They're coming off a Kansas City win, road back-to-back, 2 straight field goal wins. Also, look at the line versus records. Why are the 6-7-1 Cowboys favored over the 10-4 Chargers? As I mentioned, it's last day on earth. This coach, Schottenheimer, is actually a good coach, in my opinion, for Dallas. I think Dallas wins this game, and I think ultimately you see a very high-scoring game. At noon in Dallas, the cheerleaders are ready. People are tailgating in the parking lot. 34-30 Cowboys. Keep it moving here. Oh, yeah. Keeping it moving. Bengals, Dolphins, 1 o'clock in Miami. This game was actually supposed to be the Sunday Night Football game this week. It got flexed. Now we're looking at Patriots, Ravens for good reason. Bengals, the nail in the coffin. It's got to be it. Zach Taylor did a decent job. He got to a Super Bowl. This has to be it. How many seasons in a row can you come out terribly, try to push back? It's finally not the recipe. Dolphins, you can make the same point. Mike McDaniel, goodbye. Tua, out of the lineup. You get Quinn Ewers against Joe Burrow. Mike, I mean, honestly, I don't know what you think about this game. I'm just going to say before you even talk about it, Burrow chucking the ball around the yard in Miami. Quinn Ewers playing some Big 12-style football here now, SEC. There's got to be points in this game, right?
There's got to be. I mean, you know what? I'll say this. Considering the situation with these two teams and it got flexed out of Sunday night, going to be some interest behind this thing here. You know, I want to see what Quinn Ewers can do. I mean, let's not forget, he was the guy that kept Arch Manning on the bench down there in Texas. And on the same side of things here, you know, I don't know what motivation you have out there. Mike McDaniel's got to be on the hot seat. I mean, they gave him the vote of confidence he's going to finish the year out, but I guess it's the old adage, bad breath is better than no breath here. On the other side of things, though, Cincinnati Bengals, you're dealing with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow came out there last week. He took full accountability. You know, he's been dealing with a lot of, I guess, mental headspace. And, you know, he came out last week and he said he wants to love the game. He doesn't love the game. And people are asking if he's going to be somewhere else besides Cincinnati. After that game they had last week where they puked, this guy got 5 fantasy points. He couldn't score a touchdown against them Baltimore Ravens. And I guess the Ravens have owned him throughout his career, but he took full accountability. He said, this game is 100% on me. I wouldn't have, no team would have won if I was their quarterback this week. And I think that's bad news for this Miami Dolphins team here, because sometimes you have to read the tea leaves. Yeah, we've got 59% of the bets, 46% of the cash on the Bengals. It's moved up to a 4 from -1.5 because that's the Dolphins and the quarterback transition. If we can explain the line movement, then we can settle for the fact that, hey, look, despite the fact that it perceived to be reverse line movement, we understand why it's moving in this direction, and the total hasn't done anything. So I think this is a Bengals beat the shit out of this Miami Dolphins squad here this weekend. I think they're just wrong place, wrong time for this Miami Dolphins team. I think Joe Burrow's fired up to go get it done. Maybe part of my motivations because I've got Joe Burrow as my quarterback in fantasy league here, but I'll lay the 4 points with Cincinnati. I don't buy into Miami. I don't buy into their defense. I don't buy into their secondary, and I think that's the challenge here. Jamar Chase, always a good candidate. In fact, one of the top looks this week in fantasy football for you guys in your playoffs. Jamar Chase is the guy to go out there and get 2+ touchdowns here, but I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals -4.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. And actually, going back to last year, I'm recalling that the Bengals actually were very effective on the road in this line range outside of the division. They covered a game last year at Carolina in this line range, I think exactly -4.5. I believe they beat the Giants in a primetime game last year right in this range too. So I think in terms of the line and the functionality of the line, when books have the Bengals out of division road at -4.5, it's a buy. And I agree. I mean, we've been telling you guys all season, and this is not the first time. Of course, this applies to every season in NFL history. When you're facing a quarterback who's making his first career start, you definitely don't buy the quarterback making his first career start. You take the other team. And, we're talking about the Chiefs having nothing to play for. Similar conversation here with the Bengals, but I think the opposite side, as Mike is suggesting, I think this is going to be Burrow and the boys just kind of having fun, like throwing the ball around the yard, like a pickup game. And they're so talented. I mean, Chase, Higgins, I'm not sure if Higgins is in, but I think that, this could be good for them. Take the edge off. The pressure's gone. It's a non-divisional game. It's not cold out. It's in Miami. It's going to be 80 degrees. In my opinion, this is just fun. It's what they need. And as I mentioned, they need a new coach. They're probably going to get a new coach. I hope they do. Just have fun. Sling it around the yard. I think you're going to see a cover and an over. I think this game is going to be really high scoring. So I'm not officially on it. I might get to something in the next hour here personally, but I do agree with Mike. I think the Bengals will cover, and I think you're going to see a lot of points in this game. So over and Bengals and keeping it moving. Next game on the card, final game at 1 o'clock, Bills at Browns in Cleveland. Very interesting game here. This is one of two things, and the two things are very polarized. This is either a complete trap game for the Bills, road back-to-back sequence off a huge divisional revenge win at New England, a trap, or the Browns are just horrible. Talking about these coaches getting fired out of the AFC North, Kevin Stefanski just resigned today. We're looking at 3 straight losses that have been so egregious from a coaching perspective and special teams and defense. Shedeur Sanders is not it. Mike, I know you like the underdog side. I know you're sitting up there in New York. It's cold out. You're gritty. You're angry, except for you're not really angry. You're a fucking happy guy. But, Mike, are the Browns going to do it today? What's going on here?
The key point to this is the 3+ game losing streak. And historically, it's really tough in a pretty paired league out there to continue to stack up losses on top of losses on top of losses. I heard the Cleveland Browns are interested in Pete Carroll. But last I checked, Pete Carroll's still coaching for the Raiders. So
and he's been awful
make that make
too.
sense. They're calling their shot, dude. They're like, hey, it's almost like you're going to, you're in high school and you see the girl that you like and she's dating somebody else. And you're like, hey, I want to date you. Like, what are you doing here? She's already with somebody else. But in any event, that just kind of shows you that state of Cleveland Browns football. I am, however, on record. I said this the other day. I don't like the spot for Buffalo. They had a big comeback win against the Patriots last week. Shot at them, and they spotted them Patriots 21 points. And the best part is everyone's talking about this is the difference between what we do and what everybody else does, right? Last week, everyone's telling you guys, oh, the Bills are terrible. Their offense struggles. They're only Josh Allen. And look how great the Patriots are. And if you're using those kind of as your weather vane to decide which way the wind's blowing, then you're taking losses consistently and consecutively. We prognosticate, we try to make predictions because we look at things like strength of schedule. We look at things like DVOA. We look at things like offensive efficiency and conversion rates and try to help you guys with that critical thinking here. But I'm looking at this game from a scheduling spot. Big comeback for Buffalo last week. They needed that one for the AFC East. We'll talk a little bit about that Ravens game coming up here with the Patriots, another AFC East component there. But Cleveland Browns, can Shedeur Sanders do something? He's at home. That's a big step up for him considering, he got busted up when he was in Chicago. But I'm looking at this game from a Cleveland Browns side of things saying the Bills have the Eagles on deck next week. And last night I was getting some grief. They were saying it's not a divisional game. They don't care if they're playing the Eagles. They do care because it's a chance to toughen up, see where you're at in terms of competition against the other conference. If this is a playoff matchup, Bills, Eagles, you want to test yourself. You want to test your wit. You want to test your will. You want to test your playmaking. It's a big test, and this is not a big test. It's the Cleveland Browns. They're getting 10.5 points for all intent and purpose here. Bills should mop the floor with them, but we saw what happened last night. Now, the Eagles pulled away against the Commanders late in that game, but I don't think the Bills can get this 10.5. Josh Allen does not cover double-digit spreads, and 10.5 is too many points. I'm not going to go as far as to say wrong team's favored, but it wouldn't surprise me if this is a 1-2 last touchdown or last possession wins the game type of thing. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to take 10.5 points. Give it to me.
Yeah, I'm not officially on this. I do slightly disagree. And Mike, we were talking about this before the show. For me, these trap spots might just not exist at this point in the season because the motivation to go to the playoffs is so big. And actually, if you go back to last week, let's just do that for a half second here. The Bears were laying 7 to the Browns and beat them by 28. The other blowout lines last week, the Eagles were laying 12.5. We took the Raiders. We lost. Eagles 31-0. And the Eagles had been awful laying double digits up until last week in that spot. Jags 48-20 blowout. Niners 37-24 blowout. So every big line last week just hammered. And we were saying it on Sunday afternoon as I was losing bets and I was looking myself in the mirror saying, how did I miss this? This is just my adjustment from last week where I think these trap spots play great probably before December 1st. Now I think the class difference is just massive and the motivation. The Bills need to win this game. And as I said, I think the Browns might actually have the worst coach in the league right now. If you go back through the last 3 losses, they lost 26-8 to San Francisco. San Francisco did absolutely nothing in the game. Cleveland just gave them basically 3 touchdowns with 3 special teams errors. They somehow managed to lose a home game to Tennessee. Same thing, just abysmal special teams mistakes. And last week, the game at Chicago, Shedeur Sanders, 3 interceptions. He looked like a total fish out of water. He had no idea what he was doing. I think Flacco was a better option. I think Dylan Gabriel was a better option. I think the coach is out the door. I think Sanders won't be the quarterback next year. Mike, I know you're from upstate. You probably like the Bills to a certain degree. I know you're a Birds fan, but I think the Bills might hammer them. This will be the Mike versus Sharks special here at 1 o'clock. I like the Bills. Mike likes the Browns. We will see what happens, but of course we have alignment on so many other plays. That's the 1 o'clock slate, and we got a little break.
Make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. Appreciate everybody watching. Takes only a second. Helps us out a ton. Show some support for the squad.
4 o'clock slate, 4 games. We got 2 at 4:05 and 2 big-time games at 4:25. First one in the desert. Kirk Cousins of the Falcons traveling to Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals. Mike, we definitely agree on this one. Cardinals have lost a bunch of games in a row. They've looked absolutely terrible in the process. However, I think this is where you buy low. What do you think?
Yeah, this is one of them spots here. This line's gone again, right through 0. Other teams favored now. Kirk Cousins, 52% of the bets, 43% of the cash on the Kirk Cousins side of things here. Totals moved up 2 points, 2 full points for 58% of the bets, 63% of the cash on the over. Expecting there to be scoring. And I guess I could see that at first pass. I mean, you have to look at the side versus the totals in this game here. And, I want to get involved on the Jacoby Brissett side of the house here. I do see sharp respected betting coming in on the Atlanta Falcons, and it's obviously enough that they moved this thing a full point. I just don't know if I can get there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the Atlanta Falcons' big win against a divisional opponent in Tampa Bay. They got to pack up shop. They got to move across the country and take on a Cardinals team that continues to struggle, losses. But there's a great point you're going to bring up in this game as far as kind of schedule is concerned here. And I like the 3 points with the Cardinals, but you know what I'm going to go to? I'm going to go to the over in this game, and I want to hear what you have to say about this side and schedule comparison, Shark. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where we buy low. I mean, as I said last week, it's funny. I was just recapping last week in terms of the blowouts. I actually forgot to mention Houston just obliterated Arizona last week at Energy Stadium in Houston. Maybe I had a little amnesia there. I was trying to forget it, but we're not going to forget it. We'll acknowledge it, and we'll adjust this week. This is where Brissett, I think, has just really had a schedule cluster against, I mean, if we're being honest, like the highest degree of difficulty you're pretty much find in this league right now. Brissett is 0-6 last 6 straight up, 1-5 ATS. Those 5 non-covers have come against divisional opponents, and this is the hardest division in football. Seattle road, home game against San Francisco, blowout loss, home game against the Rams, 2 games against the AFC South. And if we're being honest, we didn't think the AFC South was going to be this good. All of a sudden, the Jags are sitting here 10-4, just absolutely playing at a high level of ball. And last week, a blowout against Houston, who's won 6 in a row. So the point is Brissett that bad, or is the schedule that difficult? Talk about difficult schedule. This is a terrible spot for the Falcons. We told you guys this a couple weeks ago. Kirk Cousins likes to play against Baker Mayfield. So we told you leading into the Thursday night football game at Tampa Bay, take Seattle to blow out the Falcons. Seattle obliterated the Falcons. Then Kirk played up and won outright at Tampa Bay. Now he's going to stay on the road off a huge win and go back against an NFC West opponent on the road. This is a historically terrible spot. 2 consecutive road games, divisional win, then going out west, out of division. And final point on this, I think that the Cardinals have a coaching edge in this game. This guy, Jonathan Gannon, ex-coordinator for the Eagles, he's a good coach. I mean, he's had a bit of a struggle. I think most of it has been Kyler Murray just underperforming and being enigmatic as a leader of men in the locker room. I think Gannon's a good coach. I think Brissett will play ball here today. Terrible spot for the Falcons. Take the Cardinals. And let's cash. Next game on the card, Jags at Broncos. 4:05 in Denver. Truthfully, this should be a 4:25 game. This is the big dog game here in terms of the AFC at 4 o'clock. Jags, as I mentioned, 10-4. The Broncos have won 11 straight games. Mike, these are spots our natural contrarian self comes to the forefront here. 11 is too much. It's too hot. Denver has played down to a lot of these out-of-division opponents this year. The Jags are scrappy. Plus 3.5 is a very nice number. I like plus 3.5. What do you think?
Letdown spot for the Denver Broncos. You know, I talked about it last week. We kind of prognosticated, looked forward and said the Broncos will beat the Green Bay Packers, despite a lot of people saying, no, there's no way. Blah, blah, blah. Listen, the Packers aren't what you thought, and you saw that last night when it comes down to it out there. Them boys be soft, and nobody's schedule has been softer than the Denver Broncos on the season. You know, overall, strength of schedule and difficulty, the only team that's got an easier go at it in situational spots was the New England Patriots. 58% of the bets and 66% of the cash have come in on the Jaguars. That's why the line has come down from 5.5 to 3.5. And overall, I just think, yes, the Broncos are 7-0 against the spread at home after they scored 19 or more points. I get it. But you have to play who's in front of you, and that has not been a challenge. They do have one of the best home field advantages because of things like altitude, elevation, travel, weather, all the other factors that go into this thing here. But look out, man, Jacksonville Jaguars, all of a sudden, and I thought this was the turnaround year. It had to be for Sunshine. Trevor Lawrence and squad. I like that they brought these guys in from Clemson. They got the running back, quarterback combination. It reminds me a little bit of the Chase and Burrow combination from LSU here. But this is now or never for this team. And can the Broncos pull off another come-from-behind victory? I mean, look, the books tell you it's plus 180 if you take the Broncos to win this game from behind. But that might suggest that they're going to be out there in front early and often in this game. And I don't see it. I think that we've got a Jaguars team fired up, motivated, the division's at their disposal right now and playoffs in front of them. So they do have big game experience. They're great 6-1 against the spread at home, a meter 3-3 on the road against that number. But you're going to give me these points. Look, the over points, 7-0-1 are the Broncos at home after they had a spread cover of 4 points or more. And I think that's what we see here. I think the Jaguars put those points on the board. And if it's going to be a score fest, the Jaguars can hang in there. They're built for this. And we'll see if Bo Nix can have another patented come from behind victory out there in the fourth quarter. But I'm going to take the Jaguars. Matter of fact, I'm going to take the Jags on the money line. How about that? This is my official wrong team favorite spot. You can get the plus 154. Go ahead and take 3.5 as well. But I think this is a good spot for the Jaguars.
No, I totally agree. And our guy says, holy crap, Sharky is taking Denver. Yeah, I'm taking Denver to lose. And what you're looking at here is everything Mike said, just a couple more points. One thing that I do like to detail at this point in the season is point differential. The Broncos are sitting here 12-2, the current 1 seed in the AFC. Their point differential is plus 81. They're 10 over 500, plus 81. The Jags are only 6 over 500, plus 84. Jags have a better point differential. And it's what we said. Denver's been kind of just playing around all year. They have laid down to a lot of these opponents outside of the division. They barely beat the Giants at home. They had a kind of a huge comeback against the Giants. They barely beat Vegas at home. They got Kansas City. And it's also a trap spot. If you look at this calendar spot for Denver, they just played Green Bay, as Mike mentioned. Very impressive. Home game 2, outside of the division again. Next 2 games at Kansas City and versus the Chargers. So they finished with 2 divisional games. They're too hot. Double 11 is way higher than the pay grade projected for this team. Of course, Denver fans don't want to hear us say that. I will reiterate, we have no bias in these games whatsoever. I have nothing against anybody on either of these teams. It's purely our analysis. I think the Jags get the win today. And final point on this, only time the Jags were an underdog in this range out of division at a Western team this year. Week 4 at San Francisco, same line range, +3. And the total was right in the same line range as well, 46. They beat the Niners outright, 26-21. And that's a Niners team that is incredibly, incredibly good. In my opinion, a better team than Denver. Mike and I both think the Jags win. Take +3.5. And let's cash. Next game on the card, 425. Steelers-Lions. Big-time stuff here. Steelers 8-6. Lions bizarrely 8-6. I mean, I think everybody kind of thought the Lions would struggle a bit this year, losing both coordinators in the offseason. I didn't think it would get this bad, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
That brings us to where we are here, Week 16 Sunday. This is a must-win for the Lions. The Lions have been great off losses in this window, and now they have a final game of the season atmosphere where they have to win. Mike, this is truly a banger spot. I think the Lions open it up early and often and cover -6.5 or -7. What do you think?
Belt to ass for the Steelers team. I think you're right, man. The Lions are in that position. Now, they have had a tough go of it. So sometimes you look at it. The difference for me is it's not 3 straight divisional games where we saw the Packers in that spot last week going in there against Denver Broncos here. They did have the Packers. The Packers did beat them. They had the Bears before that. They did take care of they dismantled the Bears 52-21 in that spot. They had the Ravens before that, an up-and-coming resurgence of the Ravens 38-30. These boys getting ready. It's playoff time. This is what this team is built for. They don't give a shit about the first half of the season. They want to dial it up right now. They want to lock themselves into a nice playoff spot. And the Steelers just came off of their biggest game of the season. So can you go back out there and take this age-ed team with Aaron Rodgers and company? I say no. I don't think this is a Steelers spot. I think, 3-3 on the road for this team. Going to go into a Detroit situation out there. And, did the Jets get you tuned up? Did the Jets get you fired up? I mean, look, down the line here, Dolphins. They just beat the Dolphins 28-15. They did take care of the Ravens. I think this is a letdown spot. I mean, if you look at kind of, one of the things you've talked about before is kind of like the profiles and the variance and like the levels of competition. Look, they played a team in the Ravens. That's a playoff team, but sort of, right? They're kind of still trying to figure it out. They beat them 27-22. They went and played Buffalo, this Pittsburgh Steelers team. They got the shit kicked out of them. It was 26-7. They didn't stand a chance. And I think this playoff team in the Detroit Lions, we know they bounce back after losses. And I think they do that here in this game. I like this number. I think this is a fair spot. I think this is literally a beatdown. The Lions prevail. Their defense goes out there and shows Aaron Rodgers it's time to hang it up. Mike Tomlin's going to be angry on the sideline. You can get a touchdown at -7. Great teaser piece as well. You've got 57% of the bets, 61% of the cash on the Lions here. I'm going to take these Lions. I'm going to lay the 7, and I'm going to look to involve these guys in the teaser.
Totally agree. This is my best bet of the day. This is a banger. Absolutely. Mike, just a couple more points on this. This is the 4th matchup this year for the Lions against this division, the AFC North. They've dominated this division. They beat Baltimore on the road by 8, 38-30. They beat Cleveland at home, only home game in a line range like this, 34-10, -10 heavy favorite. And they beat Cincinnati on the road -10, 37-24. So this is just where they're dominating this AFC division. And as we mentioned numerous times, this is a weak version of the AFC North this year. This is not the AFC North from 7 or 8 years ago. The Ravens have been very difficult to figure out. They're 500. The Steelers lead the division 8-6. We're talking about point differential. They're only +10. Detroit is also 8-6, +83. I mean, are you kidding me? 73 points better and the same exact record. And as we've said, the Lions have lost a lot of one-possession games. The Lions have lost some really tough games to really high-level competition. I've said it every week with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is getting dominated at the line of scrimmage. They are getting crushed in the yardage battle every single week. This is all over Detroit. It's going to be a big dog game. 425 Ford Field. Take the Lions and let's cash. Next game on the card, 425 Raiders Texans. I was saying the Jags game should be a 425 game. They schedule this stuff way before the season starts. And I think the projection here was somehow the Raiders with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith were going to be a competitive, interesting game traveling to the Texans. Not so much. Mike's talking about Pete Carroll trying to maybe get hired with some other team. I don't know who would hire Pete Carroll after the performance this year. But now you're getting Kenny Pickett to blowout line. Mike, you've had success fading these blowout lines. Sometimes it comes the other direction. I mean, last week we faded Houston incorrectly. Now the books actually like them more. I mean, the line is a blowout, but does Kenny Pickett somehow find something here?
I don't know what you can think about this Raiders team. I mean, listen, historically, I've talked about it in the baseball season. I've talked about it in hockey as well. Teams coming off a shutout, they come back out there and they dominate the next week. But we don't see shutouts that often in football. And if they get shut out, it's for a reason. I mean, they got 75 yards last week. Pete Carroll said, I'm confident my team put in 100%. They didn't even score 100 yards. They had 75 yards in that game. So this 14 and a half makes a lot of sense. And we talked about it. We saw Davis Mills in there for the Texans and they kept winning. We were taking Texans. We didn't think it was a step back from CJ Stroud to have Davis Mills in there because CJ Stroud wasn't performing. CJ Stroud comes back. CJ Stroud's performing. The team's getting healthy. It makes sense. This is a 14 or 14 and a half. You have 68% of the bets, 56% of the cash. This total, however, has a little bit of reverse line movement in it. 43 and a half down to 39s with 77% of the bets and 84% of the cash on the over. It's going under. This is a team total for the Raiders at 11 and a half. Now, I want to take this team total for the Raiders under. 11 and a half seems super low. I don't know if it's just a knee-jerk reaction to what happened last week, but I'm going to go to the full game under in this spot. I don't think that the Houston Texans need to go out there and run the score up on these boys, albeit 40-20 against the Arizona Cardinals last week. So there is that opportunity for them to get the job done. However, I think this is a spot for the Raiders that they just don't have it. They're done. Their season's over. Pete Carroll's going to be coaching for Cleveland in that new stadium 2 years from now. I'll take the under 39. Give me the under 39, Shark.
Yeah, I mean, historically in NFL football, this really is your blowout line under, which just suggests that one team's not going to score and the other team's not going to go nuts offensively. But like we saw last week, 31-0. Like that's just your under and your blowout. Actually, Kelly made a comment here. RotoWire has Geno Smith as QB. I just looked too. Is Geno back, Mike? Are they that ridiculous? Like just Kenny Pickett one game, you're done. Like going back. If it's Geno again, I could actually see some sort of buy low, like he got benched, now he comes back. One angle to fade the Texans here, bit of a funky spot. They're coming off a home blowout. They get this game, then they have to go short week and play on Saturday afternoon at the Chargers. That game at the Chargers is much more of a circle on the calendar game. It's a national game. And it's on Saturday, which is clearly a bit of a short week. I'm definitely not telling you guys I like the Raiders by any means, but I do think that would be potentially your struggle point for the Texans. I got nothing on this one, Mike. It's kind of just a trash game. We'll leave it at that. Final game of the card. Definitely not a trash game here. Patriots-Ravens, 8:20 in Baltimore. This is really going to be a big-time game, and that's why it was flexed. This was originally a 1 o'clock game. As we mentioned, it was originally Bengals-Dolphins. So the books agree, the media agrees, the network agrees, we agree. This is going to be a great game. Ultimately, this is a must-win for the Ravens. It's not a must-win for the Patriots. We've seen the Patriots perform great all year. Last week, they lost a coin flip late to the Bills. Mike, I don't usually have a big take on these Sunday night games. Maybe I just want to enjoy the game and hang out a little bit. Do you have anything in this one?
It's the chase spot, man. If you guys are getting beat up throughout the day, you got to go press it all on Sunday Night Football. That's not what you do. But, this should be a good game. I think the schedule makers got this one right. I think it's a great game at 4 o'clock. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Now we're looking at this game here thinking, man, they got it right. The Patriots coming off that letdown. I thought initially Patriots, go out there. If they're going to go and beat up the Bills, then you got to fade them the following week here against this Ravens team. Thing is, this Ravens team has motivation. They're still pushing. And I'm not saying the Patriots don't have motivation. I don't think that Drake May knows how to quit. But they are 0-7 after they had a total that went over by 13 or more points. So, in other words, the books over adjust for the offensive dominance that the New England Patriots put together. And do you think offensive dominance with a road team and a huge AFC tilt on Sunday Night Football against a defense that used to be one of the top 5 in the league? No, I don't think so. And in fact, Baltimore comes in 9-0 if they had more than one interception the previous game out there. So in other words, their team starts clicking, they're humming. And I think this is a bad spot for the New England Patriots here. Yeah, 11-3, but the emotional energy that has to go into taking a loss, like just a beatdown in the second half. Now, the Patriots have one of the best first half teams in the league. The Bills have one of the best second half teams in the league. So that was an epic clash and battle out there. Probably New England gets out to an early start, but Ravens fight back and win this game. And I stand by it. I think this Ravens team is ready for the playoffs. I still think it's going to be Bills versus Ravens in the AFC title game. Obviously, we don't have to contend with the Kansas City Chiefs any longer, but for me in this spot, I'm looking at this total and I'm thinking, you know what? We've got a lot of points on the board at 48. Kind of makes sense. We see an offensive battle between these two teams. I'll tell you from a fantasy football perspective, the Ravens, one of the worst starts in the game this week, but the quarterbacks are 2 of the top 5 projected outcomes in fantasy football this week because they like scores. And I think if you're going to get into a scoring fest against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens at this point in the game, I'll lay the -3 for the Baltimore Ravens here. I don't even think the money line, as much as we want to keep the juice down, it's -150. That's a fair number for a team that I think just goes out there and wins outright. But get the 3, not the 3.5. The hook could very well be the difference here. Probably a high probability this game ends by a field goal when it comes down to it. But I'll lay the 3 with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, you're right. I'm seeing 3.5 here pop up. And, that is our sharp book, FanDuel there. Mike and I not employed by FanDuel. But again, we said it last week. They usually have sharp lines. Truthfully, as I said, this is just it's really just a tough game for me from the standpoint. I don't know if we know who the Patriots really are. It's still a small sample. I mean, obviously, this is year 1 with Vrabel and Drake May. So a lot of people say, oh, it's the whole season. In my opinion, the whole season doesn't tell us the story. We really don't know who this team is just yet. They've been great on the road. I would say too good on the road. They're due to lose on the road. The Ravens need this game, but the Ravens have just been perpetually lackluster. Even the Ravens' wins recently have been unimpressive. Again, I don't really have an angle in this game. I could see either side covering. We'll leave it at that. And Mike, we got best bets.
Let's go. What a fun spot, man. What a great show, guys. I appreciate you. Smash that thumbs up button if you haven't done so already, and let's get to some best bets.
Sundays are for the Sharps. NFL Week 16, the Betting Blitz, the Shark, and Mikey Money. Best bets.
Let's go, man. I think I've got a 3-pack for us here this week. I'll try to see if I can't carve out a 4th one. I'm going to go to the under in that Kansas City game, 37.5. Quarterback changes. Give me the under 37.5 in Kansas City. Give me the, let's go with the New York Jets under 40.5 in that game. I like that spot quite a bit. I'm going to lock it down. I'm going to go with the 10.5 for the Cleveland Browns. I think that's a really great spot. It's a bad schedule. So I've been talking about it for 2 weeks now. So maybe my feet are taped to the pedals. And then I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals -4. Again, I think just Miami's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, show me on this dial where they hurt you. So I think that's a good spot for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, my 4 top plays. We're taking the Chargers Cowboys over at 1 o'clock. That is noon at Jerry World. Detroit is the best play on the entire card. Taking it -7. This could go 2 or 3 units. I see a blowout. And I see a high-scoring blowout, too, honestly. I see one of these games where it's like 42-31 or something in that range. Arizona +3 and Tennessee +3. That is 8 top plays. We see you guys in the chat. We're just shooting a breeze here on a Sunday. We love you guys. It's just bullshit. We're hanging out. If we were at a bar, we'd all have a shot and just hang out. So just take a breath. It's all good. We love you guys. Mike, give them some words, and we'll close it out.
Respect. Appreciate everybody that came in here to watch us today. We'll be back again next week. It's always a fun time. A lot of guys get excited about they get emotional. They don't they do take it personal, and we're not here to give that to you guys. We're here to help personally build your bankroll. So thanks for checking us out. Make sure you check us out again next week. You can find all the content with me over at Sports Money 7 days a week. We're rolling out live shows, predictive analytics. We're giving you guys best bets, the gamut. And you can follow me over at winnable.com/Mikey Money to get all my best bets every single day, 7 days a week with text alerts. Shark, appreciate you, my guy. Happy holiday, Shark. Merry Christmas.
Hey, you wouldn't know it. I'm down here in Florida. It might as well be July 4th. It seems to be the show, the broadcast, July 4th, December 20th. Who knows? It's week 16. We appreciate you guys in the chat. We see you guys. We know we got thousands of people watching. If you don't drop a comment, that's okay. But please do in the YouTube. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. We're always trying to improve and adjust as always. As always, please bet responsibly. If you lose, you should never lose your hat. If you win, you should never win the lottery. It's 24/7, 365. And it is an opportunity to dominate. That is NFL, the Betting Blitz, Week 16, Sunday, December the 21st, 2025. For Mike, I am the Shark. Stay fast, stay strong, stay disciplined, and let's dominate.